Hello and welcome to Gary's Urban Larder. I'm Gary Rice, and today I'm going to really make a lovely savory treat for us. This recipe I first discovered when a friend of mine, Will Sampiao, who is a Brazilian visual artist, visited me in London. And I asked him what he wanted for dinner one evening, and he said panquecas. And I'm like, what are panquecas? And he says, oh, it's really nice. It's like, a pancake and it's filled with meat and cheese. And I said, well, can you show me how to make it? Or why don't you cook? And he goes, no. He said, but he would show me how to do it. So this is my version, my recipe for Brazilian panquecas. I hope you enjoy. So let's get started. So we have some ingredients for both the crêpe batter, which is pancake batter. It's going to be very thin. It's going to be flour, salt, egg, and milk, and some melted butter. So I'm going to start melting the butter. Get that very low. And I just need a bit of butter. And while that's melting, I'm going to add some salt. And to that, I'm going to add 2 eggs. And this is, again, for a pancake batter. But you want to make a head because it has to stand for a bit of time. So I'm just going to take my whisk and break up the eggs and start to incorporate a little bit of the flour from the side. This way we'll get a smooth batter. So I'm going to add some milk. And again, this is going to be a very, very thin batter. And the whisk really helps to incorporate all the flour and the egg. I'm going to add more milk. There we have a very, very thin batter for our pancakes. I've melted the butter, and I'm just going to incorporate the butter into that, which adds flavor and richness. So while that's resting, I'm going to get a pan on and start it to heat up a bit. I'll chop the onion. So I've got a medium onion, which I'm just going to peel and chop. Just remove the outer layers of the onion because they can be a bit tough. Pull that back and do the same to the other half. Back to the root edge. And I'm just going to do some vertical cuts through each of them. 3 or 4. And then just across. Gets too small, just turn it on its side. And there we've got our chopped onion. Bit more butter in the pan. And we'll saute these onions. So I'm going to add the onion as the butter starts to melt. We're going to cook those until they're translucent. Juice that a bit. And to that, we're going to add our garlic, which I'm just going to quickly smash, two cloves of garlic. Keep those moving. And we smash it and we can remove the skin, the outer skin, very easily. And we're going to again just chop those very finely. So check our onion. I'm going to just do a pinch of salt, which helps to sweat the onion. And now we're going to add our garlic, which we're just going to cook for a few seconds. We don't want it to burn because then it will make it bitter. So once it's fragrant, I'm starting to smell that garlic. Going to add our ground beef, minced beef to some of you. My hands are clean and I'm going to keep them that way, so I'm just going to give them a rinse. So, clean hands. Always wash your hands after handling any sort of raw meat, and turn our attention back to our pan where we're browning our meat with the onion and the garlic. I'm going to add a bit more salt to that. Salt and pepper to taste. Some freshly cracked pepper. And that, we just really want to get the color to brown. We want those to brown it nicely. And you want a fairly high fat content ground beef. At least 10%, if not higher, of fat. I prefer 15 to 20. This, I believe, is 12. And I would like a little more fat than that, so I'm going to add the rest of the butter. You could also use olive oil. There. Reduce the heat a bit. A little wider flame. Now we've got our meat browned. I'm just going to put that to one side, and I'm going to add our tomato paste. And the reason I'm doing that is we want to cook the rawness out of that paste. just a bit. Only takes a few seconds, really. You want to do that, and then we can combine it with the rest of the contents of our pan, the meat. And I'm also going to add oregano, a generous amount of oregano. That's looking pretty good. And finally, I'm going to cut up tomato. Just dice it in there. Stir. Smells amazing. When you stop in, I'll share it with you. But really, give this a try. It's something different. It's fairly easy to do. And I think your friends and family will enjoy it. Just finishing the chop of my tomatoes. Trying to escape my cutting board. I could have used a little larger cutting board, but that's all right. Those go in. And turn our attention back to our mixture. Reduce that down, and I'm going to add a bit of tomato sauce. I want to reserve some of that, so I'm going to use that later. Just give that a stir through. So you want this wet, but not runny. So that looks very good. So I can remove that and return with our griddle, which we're going to allow to heat up, and we're going to make our crepes. So I'll just check our batter. You can see that has gotten a little foamy, and we're just going to mix that through. And I'm going to need a bit more butter to use for our crepes. So just a little bit of butter onto our griddle, and we'll let that melt. So now again, this is a very thin batter, and we want a very thin pancake. So I'm going to get rid of the whisk and get a little ladle. So we're getting the butter to melt. Needs to be just a bit hotter. Got a little pastry brush, and I can help spread that around our griddle. And as that starts to bubble, that tells me that it's approaching temperature. So going to start with just over half ladle, and I'm just going to put that on and pour that around to cover the griddle, to cover the surface of the griddle. And if we've got a little empty spot, just a bit more. Fills that in. So, they always say the first pancake is the most difficult. We're just going to wait for that to bubble on the surface. As you can see, it's doing. I've got my handy spatula, and we're ready to turn our crepe. Doesn't that look beautiful? I'm turning that very, very low flame, because we just want to get enough color on that on the opposite side. Nearly there. I think we've got enough batter to do 6 to 8 panquecas. So there's the first. We're just going to continue to make our panquecas on our griddle, on our hot griddle. And again, just want to swirl the pan to coat the bottom. And it looks like our butter browned a bit. That's because our griddle was a little too hot. But I don't think it's going to affect the flavor too much. It wasn't too hot. And we're just going to finish making our crepes, and then we'll come back when we're ready to put in our filling. And we're just doing the last of our batter for a final pancake, which looks like it's going to be a bit small. So I've got cheese and basil, and I'm going to grate some cheese. So I'm just going to actually give a go at this. Let's get the rind off. And then we're going to start grating some cheese. All right, so check on our last crepe. Our ugly crepe, but it'll still taste delicious. So now we're ready to start filling. And we're going to place them in a little dish. I'm going to use some of this butter on the bottom of this dish and the sides. Again, we're just going to add more richness, more flavor. You could use oil if you wanted, olive oil, if that's what you used to saute your onions and make your filling. Then just be consistent with that, I suggest. And if you want to add butter, it's up to you, you could do that. So I'm just going to take some of our filling, put it in the center of our panqueca, and I'm going to roll that up and place it seam side down in the pan. And that's what we're going to continue to do until we've got all of our panquecas nicely filled. If it's a bit long, you can tuck the end in. Don't worry too much about it. Don't be too precious. Now, if I have some Brazilians watching, I know you're going to have some criticism. So again, please leave your comments in the description box. Any suggestion, any other ideas you'd like to see me attempt to make, any recipes, let me know. And we're going to have just enough filling for these. Oh. Get that in. Push those closely together so we have room for the last one. You can see that the filling is still moist but not runny, and that's what we want. Get that in the center. Oh, it smells amazing. I hope it tastes as good as it smells. And we roll that up, and we're going to get that in to our pan. I want to finish off with some of our sauce. It's just tomato sauce, which I'm going to cover our panquecas. There we go. Now we can add the cheese. You never have too much cheese in my opinion. Remember, all the recipe and instructions are in the description box. Just take a look. And I am just going to add some basil to the top. So I'm just pulling the leaves and I'm going to bruise them by twisting them. And you can feel the moisture come out. And then I'm just going to drop those across the top. Reserve a little for later as well. Now, that's ready to go into a hot oven, about 400 Fahrenheit, 200 Celsius. So we're just going to put it in for 10 to 15 minutes. So we get the cheese melted, the sauce nice and bubbly, and it browns just a little bit more. So it's in our oven, and I'll come back in 10 or 15 minutes, and we'll pull it out nice and hot. It's time to take out our panquecas. Oh, look at that. Melty cheese, sauce is just bubbling gently. The edge of the panquecas have gotten brown and crisp. Now, the best thing to do, well, I'm going to add a little more of our bruised basil on top. Just a little bit. There we go. And having these hot is really what I recommend. So I'm just going to get one out. Oh my goodness. The smell, I wish you could smell it. And the look. Nice. Filling. It's a bit too hot for me to try right now. So we'll give it a few minutes. But I tell you, that is going to be the best panqueca I've had in a long time. And I hope you've enjoyed today's recipe. I hope you try it. Leave your suggestions. Remember to give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe. Ring the notification bell, and we'll see you at the next one. Thank you.